Hello, welcome to this practice. Today's practice is a mixture of yin and restorative poses. That means we hold them for quite some time. And to help you do that, it is really good if you have access to some props. If you haven't, don't worry, we'll just make do with what you've got. So what we need ideally is a couple of yoga bricks or something that shape. So for example, you might have a couple of big books that you could use in their place. We're also going to have a yoga bolster or something like a yoga bolster. So this is like a big fat sausage, like so. Now you might have a cushion from your sofa, or what can be really good is two pillows from your bed, and then you really tightly wrap them with a towel. So perhaps you need to press pause now and go and find that, and then we'll come back to our first shape. So our first shape today is using the two bricks or the books. We're going to lay our cushion, whatever we have, on top of them, and we're going to come to lie back. And this practice today is for those days when you just don't feel that good. We all have them, those little crappy days. And this is a really good time to practice so that we can just give ourselves a little time to settle, to allow ourselves to feel rubbish. All too often we try to distract ourselves and chase those feelings away, and they're only going to come back later. So let's come down to lie, leaning back against this cushion, and your legs can either be crossed like mine are, or perhaps you're ready for feet together, knees wide. That can be quite strong. Maybe your legs are straight. So just find a way that feels really comfortable. What we're after in this shape is a wide open heart. When we're feeling crappy, we tend to close off our heart. So just ever so lightly tuck the chin, let the shoulders drop. And here we begin today's practice, which is called Yoga for a Crappy Day. So close your eyes and just take a moment to feel the layers of support beneath you. Let the back rest down into the bolster. Feel the hips on the earth and feel the support of the earth beneath you. And sometimes we can easily forget that there is support there for us. So just allow yourself now to drop into this support and take a really full deep breath in through the nose and then a sighing breath out. Just let this be a little signal to yourself that this is for you now. You've carved this time out and you're just showing up as you are today. There's no need to change yourself, to fix yourself. So see if you can find an even tone to the breath now. Maybe you breathe in for a count of 4 or 5. Can you breathe out for the same count? Breathing in a count of 4 or 5. Breathing out for the same count. And just notice what the headlines are for you right now. Is there a thought that's just looping around and around and around? Maybe it's a conversation you had earlier today. Maybe it's a world event. Just acknowledge whatever your dominant thoughts are right now in this moment. And sometimes it's good to remind yourself that you are not your thoughts. These are just the thoughts you're having right now. Come back to your breath, breathing in for a count of 4 or 5. Breathing out for the same count. And just feel this open, expansive, compassionate heart. That's where we're breathing into. Can you breathe into the center of the upper chest? Breathe out as you soften and release. And perhaps notice now, we're going to spend about 5 or 6 more deep breaths. Notice every time your mind goes back to that one thought. Just notice and then see if you can come back to noticing the breath instead. And maybe you notice that when you slow your breathing down, sometimes there's a slowing down of the thoughts too. It's impossible to breathe deeply and be anxious at the same time, but really hard to remember that when you're in the thick of it. So just notice right now, watch this next breath. And just stay now here in this pose as you just acknowledge what's going on for you. So often through life we distract ourselves, or we sometimes fall into what we call toxic positivity, where we find something that we're fed up about, but then we tell ourselves it could be worse, that person over there is having a worse time, or this could happen, or that could happen. And all of this is true, of course, but it is okay to feel a bit rubbish. And when we allow ourselves to sit with that feeling and process it, it's much more likely to pass through. So we're not wallowing in self-pity, although you're welcome to if you wish. We're just acknowledging how we show up today. And we're going to take 5 more really full deep breaths. So not only does slowing our breathing down stop our thoughts from moving quite so rapidly, we also enter what we call parasympathetic nervous state. This is where our body starts to rest. It's where we slow down our heart rate and we tap into that innate capacity we have to heal ourselves. When we're always stressed and rushing from one thing to the next, we release a lot of cortisol, the stress hormones, and that can wreak havoc on our health. So if you find that your mind is really racing, just repeat to yourself for these next 3 breaths. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. The first teaching of the Buddha. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. Just see if that helps you still the mind a little bit. So this practice is all about slowing down. So as we finish this pose now, please don't rush. Think of yourself as a sloth doing yoga, really lazy and restful. So slowly, slowly come up. And we're going to remove these props now out to the side as we come into our next shape. So these poses are very simple. It feels like not a lot is going on, but they can really do a lot to reduce tension from the body. We're going to come down onto the floor now for a pose we call banana pose. And you'll see why straight away. So we wiggle our right shoulder a little bit to the right, and then we take our right foot to the right. So we have a curve down the right side of our body. Now take the arms up and overhead. Hold on to your left wrist and just gently tip to the right. Now this left foot can either be next to your right foot or it can stack on top, but just make sure your hips are okay. Bend the elbows out to the side so the shoulder blades are resting, and then tuck your chin. So in total, we're going to be here for 3 minutes. And if that frightens you, stay for 6. So close your eyes. And this is a really good stretch if you have an achy shoulder or hip on your left side. So notice your thoughts again. Are they running riot? And draw yourself back to center with a really big deep inhale through the nose Again, maybe a count of 4 or 5. And then a really full breath out. And for this time, we want to lengthen our exhale. So as you breathe in for a count of 4 or 5 beats, can you breathe out for a count of 5 to 7 beats? And don't force the breath, don't let this be uncomfortable. Just see how you get on. And we have about 2 more minutes to practice this. So of course the mind will start to drift off, that's what the mind does. So give it something to do, count your breath, or simply repeat, I am breathing in, I am breathing out. So it doesn't take very long for thoughts to come back. Only concussion, a blow to the back of the head, can actually stop you thinking. But you do have a choice not to follow those thoughts. People often say to me they can't meditate, but meditation is just putting yourself in a position to notice your thoughts, not to not have any thoughts at all. So for our final minute, notice where your thoughts always take you, and then come back to the breath, count the breath, or simply repeat the phrase, I am breathing in. Just scan your body, make sure you're not tensing the face, the shoulders, you're not over gripping the wrist. When we're feeling a bit rubbish, we sometimes grip our bodies in a way that almost feels like body armour. Can you let all of that soften and just come back to your breath? So we've had 3 minutes in that pose now. Can you take 3 more breaths? Let each breath get a little deeper and finish with a sigh. And then just come into like a little starfish. So we've got the feet wide, come back to the center, have your arms out in a big Y shape. And if you are feeling a bit rubbish, this can feel quite expansive. It's kind of a powerful pose where we take up space. So just notice how it makes you feel. And breathe into all that space you're creating in your body. Take 2 more full, spacious breaths. Feel like you're breathing into every fingertip, every toe. Feel the belly rise, the side ribs expand. And just again notice where your thoughts are right now. Are they good thoughts, bad thoughts, the same thoughts? Let's come on to side 2. So we're going to tip to the left foot first, the left shoulder in line with it. And again, we're holding the right wrist this time. So we tilt to the side, but first thing when we involve the hands, we involve the shoulders. So make sure your shoulders are relaxed. Perhaps your right foot stacks on top of the left. Tuck the chin. And we're here for 3 minutes. So whichever way helps you stay centered, stay connected, stay present. Do that now. Count the breath. Maybe repeat, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And just check for any unnecessary tension. Is your jaw as relaxed as it could be? Can you let the tongue roll up to the roof of the mouth? Can you soften the backs of your eyes? Are you gripping or just holding that wrist? Can you relax around the hips? And just breathing out of the whole body, breathing in for a count of 4 or 5. Breathing out for a count of 6 or 7. When we can allow ourselves this time out to sit with our thoughts, not be overwhelmed by them, it's a really powerful practice to just help us release them. The Buddha said that hanging on to anger is like drinking poison. It doesn't hurt the person we're angry with, but it really harms us. So while it's okay to perhaps be angry or, again, feel crappy, it's also good just to acknowledge that we're feeling like that and recognise that it's really, really good for us if we can just let it go, even if it's just for this time that we practice together. So here we are now at the 3-minute mark. In this pose, can you take 3 full deep breaths? Let each one get longer. And finish with a little sigh. And again, let's come back. And this is as much part of the practice as the poses. So when we come out, stay present as you take your arms wide, your legs wide. Soften the face. And breathe into this pose, this shape where we just take up all this space. And notice already if anything's shifted. What's the dominant thought that you have right now? Our thoughts are just chemistry or energies. They're not real, but while we know this intellectually, when we're in it, we can feel really pushed around by our feelings, our thoughts. Just make yourself this expansive person that can just hold all that you're feeling and thinking right now without needing to feed them more thoughts, feed them afterthoughts. Take 4 more very full deep breaths. So our next shape is called supported bridge pose, and this is a really good pose for times of overwhelm because it supports our our adrenals, and they're the things that pump out adrenaline all day. So get your brick. It may be that you can use a cushion or a bolster. It doesn't really matter. Take your feet hip width apart, lift up your hips and place something underneath the sacrum or the small of the back. This should never feel pinchy or uncomfortable. Maybe you rest your hands on your hip points. So a very mild back bend. It doesn't have to be really intense. Soften the shoulders, just tuck the chin. So if you struggle to sleep, this can be a really good pose to do before bedtime. So in order to sleep, again, it's really good to be in that parasympathetic nervous state. And there's a very specific breath we can do with this. It's called 4-7-8 breath. I'm going to count it once, but then leave you to do it because somebody counting the breath for you can lead to anxiety. So you are in control here. What we're going to do is breathe in for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 7, 8. You do that in your own time. You might be a little quicker than me. You might be a little slower than me. But we're going to take 3 more minutes in this shape that supports our adrenals. Doing 4, 7, 8 breath. So you find your own rhythm. So when we're stressed and taxed, our adrenals work overdrive. Often they get very depleted and burnt out. So the adrenals live just above the kidneys. And the word adrenal actually means extra kidney. So if you like to visualize, perhaps you can visualize your breath going down into these adrenals and kidneys around the lower back. Just sending them nourishment and energy. And again, if the mind is wandering, just acknowledge that the mind's wandering and then come back to this next breath. And one of my favourite meditation teachers, Jack Cornfield, he says that when we start to meditate, it's just like training a puppy. We don't beat the puppy off if it goes wandering off, so we don't beat ourselves up if our mind drifts. We just keep coming back to this next breath. So we have just over 1 more minute to practice this 4, 7, 8 breath. So just notice where your mind might be right now. And can you come back, come back, come back. And now again, take 3 more deep breaths. Let each breath get deeper and longer. Finish with a sigh. So we're going to go upside down now in a very gentle way. This is a good one to do mid-afternoon when your energy levels drop. Let's just take the legs up, and this pose is called legs up. So with a little bend in the knees, let the ankles come over the knees over the hips. Perhaps your hands are on your tummy. Perhaps your hands are beside you. And the phrase Iyengar used was effortless effort, so it shouldn't be difficult. And this reverses the flow of lymph that accumulates around the ankles back down into our stomach. So close your eyes, just come to a more regular breath now, perhaps breathing in for a count of 4 or 5. Breathing out for a count of 4 or 5. So when we take the heart above the head, we call it an inversion. So we're quite literally going upside down. Or another way of looking at it is we're changing our perspective. So while we might be having this crappy day, sometimes we can just change our perspective. Can we be grateful that we're experiencing a crappy day? Because that means we know what a good day looks like. That's not falling into toxic positivity, be wary of that, but just perhaps call to mind several things that you have in your life right now that you are truly grateful for. Maybe there's a person, your favourite place, your favourite food. And whatever it is that inspires you the most, can you feel like you're breathing that energy into the centre of the heart space? And if you're feeling tired or there's any discomfort here, bring the feet back down again. Otherwise, we're going to be here for another minute. And then just circle your ankles. In fact, circle your wrists as well. Really good for our joints, especially if we have any arthritic joints. Spread your fingers, spread the toes. Any cracks or pops is the dryness escaping. So welcome that in. And then gently, gently come down. And as the knees land, just take a moment back and construct a supported bridge. Take a deep, deep, deep breath in. And then just remove whatever it is you had beneath your lower back. Take it away for a moment, just come to rest. And there's a lovely proverb, a Spanish proverb, how nice it is to do nothing and rest afterwards, which is just what we're doing now really. Breathing in, breathing out. Take 3 more of those. And then come to lie on your side. Take the hands down to the ground and press yourself up to a seat. So our next shape is a forward fold. Now, if you have any back issues, forward folds can be much more demanding for your back than the back bend we've just done. So what you might need here is to sit up on something, for example, the brick or the book, or maybe there's a cushion there. We're going to be in this forward fold for 3 minutes. So I'm going to do a wide-legged forward fold. You can also do a forward fold with your legs crossed. Now, here in the centre of our forehead, we have what we call the vagus nerve. And this is a really big nerve that's related to our nervous system. So if you can find something that helps you press your vagus nerve into, that can really help you at times of stress. So when you can't sleep, just massage here, just where your third eye is. So you might have your cushion or pile of cushions and take it in front of you and rest the forehead there. If you have a different kind of flexibility, you might come down forward and rest your forehead there. So find something that's not causing you to hold your breath, that's not uncomfortable, and see if you can come to settle there, again for 3 minutes. So allow there to be a few wiggles and shakes as they begin, and then see if you can settle. And the breath we're going to be doing here is a longer exhale again. So breathe in for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6. And as I mentioned earlier, we all know intellectually that we have good days and bad days. But when we're in a bad day, it can just feel like we've been there forever. And this is a quote from Carl Gibran, writing many centuries ago. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy that you can contain. So just acknowledging if today is a bad day, that today is a bad day. And just allow yourself to be still with that and just focus on the breath coming in and the breath coming out. And maybe this time you can repeat on the exhale, this too shall pass. Breathing in new beginnings. Breathing out, this too shall pass. And we have 2 more minutes here. And there's also a Zen saying, leave the front door open and the back door open. Welcome everybody in, but don't make them tea. So the idea that our thoughts are just thoughts, we don't push them away, but we can always choose not to feed them with more thoughts.
And right now again, notice where is your mind? And do you need to come back, come back? And now again, take 3 more deep breaths. Let each breath get a little deeper than the previous one. And finish with And sighing actually sends a message to our brain, our nervous system, that we're letting go, that we don't want to be in this state of tension anymore. Now take your time to come up. Pull your tummy in and slowly unravel. Let each vertebrae stack on top of each vertebrae. Roll the shoulders back, lean back a little bit. Just bring the opposite quality into the spine now, the hint of a back bend. Maybe shake out the legs. Perhaps move the knees side to side. So now we're going to do some twists, also very symbolic about releasing and letting go. Twists also really good for our lower back. So if you have access to that cushion or bolster or pillows, take it next to your right hip. We'll do the right hip first, this is where our liver is, and we're going to take our knees together. So if we lie down on the bolster, we're doing a side stretch. We want to be doing a twist here, so we want our belly button to be in the centre of the bolster. So here we're going to hold this one also for 2 minutes. So have your hands either side of the bolster. Move your belly button towards the centre. You might feel a pull on the lower right back. And then we come to lie. Now some people can take their left ear down. I prefer to keep my right ear down. So we've got this lovely support of the bolster beneath us. And when our muscles feel supported, they can let go of their tension. So close your eyes. We're here for 2 minutes. And when we twist, we focus on the breath coming into our side ribs. So breathing in for a count of 4 or 5 to the side ribs. Breathing out for the same count. And this time we're going to try and add a pause at the end of our breath. Can you breathe in for a count of 4 or 5? Pause. Let the out breath come when it's ready. And then you pause again. So let the breath breathe you. You don't have to be in control. You don't have to be the breather. Breathing in. Pause. Breathing out. You have 1 more minute. Just really drop into the support of the bolster. And again, notice where is your mind right now? What thoughts are you feeding with more thoughts? Can you just come back? And again, take 3 more deep breaths. Let them get deeper. Finish with a ah. And then press your hands to either side of the cushions, the support, lift yourself up. And go slow. You can feel really achy when you come out of these shapes, but that's what we call our body's repair response. So turn your back and just gently move side to side with your knees. So I was taught that it's rude to turn my back on you, so I'm going to change the position of my bolster, but I invite you just to change the position in which you're facing. So you're just going to turn the opposite way and do this on the left. So I'm going to just change so I can still face you. So we have our left hip by the bolster this side, the right knee is stacked on top. Remember, it's the belly button, the centre of our tummy, that we want to be over the bolster. So take your time. This can be deceptively strong, so just make sure you're not over tensing the back. And then snuggle up for this final shape before we rest. Find that breath again, sideways. And then settle into the rhythm of your breath and try and add that natural pause at the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale. The world record for holding breath is about 13 minutes, so don't be afraid to explore. And the more time we can spend in these pauses between the breath, the more peaceful we feel. So just linger in those spaces between the breaths and see if you can let all of your thoughts drop there. Notice right now, where are your thoughts? Just come back, come back, come back. And take 3 more deep breaths. Let each breath get deeper. And finish with that sighing breath out. Take your hands either side of the support that's beneath you. Press yourself up. And you might notice that you feel like you've just had an elephant tranquilizer. This is what it feels like to be relaxed. It might feel tired. It's more likely to be an unfamiliar state, especially when you're having a crappy day. So we're going to finish now lying down, and I'm going to hold space for this for about 3 minutes. You might choose to switch me off completely now and lie down for as long as you have. So we're going to come to lie flat. Now, if you have any back issues, or even if you haven't, it can be really nice to put your knees over the bolster and come to lie down. So just make sure your shoulders are soft, the chin is ever so lightly tucked, and you might have your hands resting on you, especially if you're feeling a little bit anxious, or you might have your arms out to the side with the palms up. Just let it be a conscious placement of your hands. And now let the breath be exactly as it wants to be. So I'm going to sit up now because I have something to read to you, but I encourage you to stay lying down in this pose we call corpse pose, Shavasana. So staying there, I'm going to come up. So allow the breath to soften and settle. Flutter your eyelashes, make sure there's no hardening behind the eyes. Take a deep breath between both nostrils. As you breathe out, soften and relax the jaw. And this is something I have on my wall at home, and it's really good advice. So perhaps you can tell your friends, maybe this is how you need to be treated right now. It's called How to Care for a Shedding Human. Humans shed regularly throughout their life to enable growth. Shedding usually takes as long as it fucking takes. Although this is a completely natural process, there are certain steps that you can take to care for a shedding human. Make sure you foster a hospitable environment for the human by adding extra love and compassion. Remind human that any discomfort is normal and will lessen soon after change. If you notice any complications such as fear and self-sabotage, stand up for the human. Do not ignore the human. Encourage and stand beside the human. Hold a sign, light a candle, cause a ruckus. Drag them into any sunlight available. Sing to them. Bring them unnecessary cookies. Hold their hand. Whisper good things in their ears. Kiss them a little. Tell them the story of your shedding, the beautiful and exquisitely painful ways that you've changed too. Repeat forever. So stay here now with your breathing. Allow yourself to be a shedding human. All the discomfort that we feel, that we experience, tends to make us grow. And there's a famous quote from Lao Tzu that new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. So breathe deeply, breathe well. And just be beautiful you now as you lie here for 2 more minutes before we close the practice together. And start to make your breathing slightly deeper. If you're finding this rest is serving you, I really encourage you to stay. Otherwise, let's take some time again to roll over onto your side. And take some time to slowly come up to a seated position. And I hope the days ahead are filled with laughter and joy. If not, may your sorrow soon pass. Let's take our hands to prayer, lift the chest, and sweep those arms up and overhead as you breathe in. As you breathe out, draw all that potential to the centre of the chest, the heart space. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me. And if you'd like to sign up for my newsletter, just visit my website, Sarah Rush Yoga, and you'll be informed when there are new practices and other things if you want to practice with me in person. Thank you.